Everybody, today, Sunday, the third day of Kislev, corresponding to the seventh day of November 2021. Today's class graciously sponsored by Mr. Maurice Chera and family, Ya'ilun Nishmat, his beloved mother, Shoshana Bat Leah, Mrs. Florence Chera, Aleha Shalom. Additionally, today's class dedicated by Mr. Ike Hiravi and family, La'ilun Nishmat Miriam Bat Bulisa, Aleha Shalom. Today's class is also dedicated for the Refuah Shelema of Ishaq. Amen. We hope that everybody had a beautiful Shabbat. I'd like to say a brief Devora Torah that I said yesterday in Saudah Shelishit. And I know that many of you praise elsewhere on Shabbat, but I think that is in Yaakov and Esav, there are different personalities to begin with. One pasuk says, "Vahi Esav, ish yodeh asayil, ish sadeh." Esav was a hunter, a man of the field. Yaakov ishtam, and Yaakov was a wholesome person. Yoshev ohalim, that will dwell in Torah learning. This is the basic concept of the parasha yesterday. Comes the Siftei Hachamim, and it says that when they realized that Yaakov and Esav were two opposite individuals, when the pasuk says, "Vayigdelu hane'arim," the children became mature. What does it mean? From childhood, they became bar mitzvah. And once they became bar mitzvah, automatically they were able to see Esav goes one direction and Yaakov goes to a different direction. Comes the Siftei Hachamim and he says, I don't understand. One of the commentators on the parasha, I don't understand. Come on, what happened here? So it says as Siftei Hachamim that when people notice the behavior, especially of Esav, with Yaakov we have no issues. But with Esav, what do they say? Ma'aseh ne'arut hu oseh. What does it mean? Yani as a child, he's going to grow out of it. You know what the Torah is teaching us? That education doesn't start when a boy or a girl becomes bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah. The Halacha brings down, and Rabbi Yosef is very strong in this area, and it says that many times parents allow themselves for a child to eat something that the kashrut is problematic or non-existent. And sometimes people say, it's only a candy. He's a child. I know the language of Rabbi Yosef says what? Because he's a child, he doesn't have neshama? Because he doesn't have the obligation like an adult to do Torah and mitzvot, you don't do anything. The opposite. There is a concept of chinuch. The chinuch concept is the concept of education. You can't wait till a child becomes bar or bat mitzvah to start education. You know when you need to start? You say from birth? I'll give you a deeper answer. From the parents. Yeah. You have to start from the parents. Once the parents, one more thing that I said 2 weeks ago in one of the ladies' classes, that parents must be on the same page. Because if parents are in a different page, that affects the children's education as well. So, B'ezrat Hashem, Hashem should help us that we do the right thing in the education of our children. And one thing, remember the parasha, Baya'itar, pray, and besides doing everything good, besides giving an example to your children, besides doing the right thing at home, besides sending them to a school, besides sending them to good friends and environment, above all of that it needs to be supplemented with the concept of prayer. I use this Devora as the springboard for today's Gemara class. The Gemara says, Le'olam, Amar Shmuel. I'll give you a little background of this Gemara. This Gemara talks about the concept of Zimun. Zimun basically means, like we do in Shabbat Sa'udah Shilishit, or sometimes you're in a wedding and you have people that ate bread, before the Birkat HaMazon, you do the Zimun. But I like to take the sentence of this Gemara and to bring it to an additional angle of what the Gemara discusses, to connect it to what we said a few moments ago. Amar Shmuel, Le'olam al yosi adam et atzmo min hakelal. What does it mean? In English it means forever. Don't remove yourself from people. Now, although this Gemara refers to Zimun, for example, when you have 4 people that ate bread, or you have 3 people that ate bread, or if you have 2 people that ate bread and 1 person that ate mezonot, on that case qualifies to make the Zimun. Okay? And one message the Gemara also gives us is, don't break the Zimun. Sometimes a person says, I'm in a rush, I have to leave, I cannot wait for the Zimun. That's not good, the Gemara seems to imply. So what do you do in that case? So halachically, the person that needs to leave can do Zimun with the other 2 that will remaining eating the Sa'udah, and they do Zimun. They answer the Zimun, they continue eating, he says the Birkat HaMazon, and then he's able to continue with his day. But the Gemara, let's explain this Gemara from a different perspective altogether. Le'olam, forever, al yotzi adam et atzmo min hakelal. In this case, the kelal means the community. The Gemara is teaching us a message for life. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter where you come from. The importance of the community is non-negotiable, right? You mentioned to me the other day Guadalajara, right? Guadalajara. All of them are visiting us from Mexico. But before Mexico City, they lived in Guadalajara. And they were telling me how they did not have much of a community. And not only they did not have, that there was a time in their life that unfortunately the community brought a conservative rabbi, I believe, right? And gradually they started to have Torah classes in people's homes, and Baruch Hashem, many of them grew spiritually, and they moved to where the main community in Mexico City is. And this is, Rabotai, imperative whenever a person moves. Obviously, if you were born in Brooklyn or in Deal or in Mexico City or Buenos Aires, Sao Paulo, Panama, Miami, and you're connected to the community, Hazaku Baruch. But what happens if a person relocates? I guarantee you that if I go around the room, we're going to see that 98.5% of the people in this room are not native from Miami. I can see maybe 3 or 4 native Miamians in the room. Don't worry, we're not going to call immigration. All right? Not Homeland Security.
Immigration doesn't care to them.
No, I know, they're going to give you a separation fee now.
Give you money.
I know, they give you a big time money. Anyways, but the reality is, what unites us together? The community, the synagogue, whatever we have. And that's an imperative message that a person must carry. Panama is the same, right? Same thing. Okay, what is the synagogue? That's what I affiliate. Where is the school? That's where my kids go. Where is the mikveh? That's what we use. Where are the restaurants? That's where we go. The Gemara is telling us not only a message for 2,000 years ago in the time of the Talmud, that life was simpler to a certain extent, but had many challenges and different challenges than 2 years later. Today, Baruch Hashem, synagogues are flourishing all over the world. And that's a great zechut to Am Israel, that despite the fact that we are in exile for 2,000 years, yet, Baruch Hashem, Am Israel, Hay v'kayam, Am Israel continues to flourish wherever they are. Now, let's discuss for a few moments about Yaakov Avinu's life. We already know the ending of yesterday's parasha, which I like to touch one subject which I think is imperative to go on record, since a lot of things I say on Shabbat that cannot be recorded for obvious halachic reasons, but I feel that certain messages are imperative to be recited again, to be said again. So remember what we mentioned, Yaakov and Esav. The Pasuk tells us that Rivka became aware of the opportunity that was in front of her, that Ishak Avinu requested from Esav, go and bring me animals for the meal. Rashi explains that the reason why Ishak Avinu requested two types of animals, two animals actually, because that night was going to be Pesach, and one was Korban Pesach, and another one was Korban Hagigah. Korban Hagigah is the festive offering that every holiday supplements the actual holiday. The word Hagigah comes from the word Hag, holiday. There's a holiday offering. There is a Pesach offering, there is a Sukkot offering, there is a Shavuot offering, but then you have the generic holiday offering. And that's why Ishak requested from Esav to bring two. Rivka becomes aware, tells Yaakov, dress up like Esav and go to your father, and I'm going to give you from my dowry. That's what Rivka did. Dowry means the gift that the bride receives upon marriage. In Spanish they call it la dote. There is such a word, right?
Yeah, so
in French, la même chose. Beautiful.
La dot.
La dot. La dot. Okay, in Egypt too. Okay. Now in English it's called dowry. So she says, take from my dowry 2 goats, and then I'll make them the way your father likes them, for him to be able to bless you. And why was there need for food before a blessing? Because blessings need to be recited with simcha, with happiness. With happiness, blessings are to be said. When you're going to bless someone, do it in a happy and in a joyous moment. So comes Yaakov, and we know the end of the story. Yaakov is dressed like Esav, and comes Ishak Avinu, and it says, you sound too nice to be Esav. Please and thank you, and God enabled me to find it. Esav doesn't talk like that. Esav says, okay, I won, eat and finish. I gotta go play golf. I'm gonna go play cards, whatever Esav used to do. I wish he would play golf and go play cards. Esav was a hunter, and among his trophies was, God forbid, murder as well in his actions, inappropriately, and immorality and others, but we'll save Esav for some other time. So it says that Yaakov is asked by Ishak, who are you? So Yaakov says, Anochi Esav bechorecha. Anochi means I am I. Esav is your firstborn. And right away comes the question, how can Yaakov Avinu, which is the master of emet, of truthfulness, that's why it's called tam. You know what tam means? A person who doesn't cheat, lie, or swindles. That is a tam. A person that is transparent. What you see is what you get. He didn't have two-face. He was emet. So how come that Yaakov says to his father, Anochi Esav bechorecha? So the Hatam Sofer and this is the Hiddush that I never saw in my life before till this Shabbat, Friday night, I think. And it says in Hatam Sofer that Yaakov Avinu wasn't lying. Yaakov Avinu was saying the truth. He says, but how can you say the truth? What, you're bipolar? You have dual identity? One day you're Esav, one day you're Yaakov? You know what the Hatam Sofer says? That because Yaakov Avinu was dressed like Esav, the garments of Esav had an influence on Yaakov Avinu. And he says, why? שבגדו משפיעה, שבבגדים משפיעים על האדם. The way that a person dresses has an influence on the person. It's not me, it's Hatam Sofer. I'm only saying what he wrote. But thank you.
It's true.
It is true. You know, in English they say clothing makes the man or doesn't make the man. There is such a statement in English.
Make the person.
Clothing. Most of us believe that clothing doesn't make the person. Don't judge a book by its cover. You may be dressed in a very elegant, last fashion style, so to speak.
And the inside.
But when you open your mouth, it's like a sewer. God forbid. God forbid. So we don't judge. In English, they say you don't judge a book by its cover. Right?
Right.
The cover may be nice. Maybe they spend a lot of money in marketing, and that's why the cover looks nice.
But
you start reading the book, you're falling asleep by the second page. Okay? But this, the exception, the Hatam Sofer says, is how a person dresses. And if you dress in a clean, proper, presentable way, it says one thing about the person. If God forbid the person dresses in an inappropriate way, that also sends a message about the person. That's why the Torah and the Halakha make so much emphasis on modesty, on seni'ut. And although usually when we talk about modesty, it refers to the ladies' department, that they have a bigger challenge than men on the dress code, but it's equal in the sense of a person needs to be dressed clean, presentable. Doesn't need to be fashionable, doesn't need to be expensive for the person to be clean. And that's a beautiful Hiddush that the Hatam Sofer speaks. Another source adds one more thing, and it says, not only dress code affects the person, but haircuts also affects the person. Baruch Hashem, I look around the room, everybody has nice haircut, presentable, etc. But you know where we learn that haircuts affects the person? From Esav. Kulo ke'aderet se'ar. What was the hairdo of Esav? Do you know? Afro. A lot of hair. And you see people, every inch of the head it's very low. Suddenly here they have like a pillow. 3-4 inches pillow. Halachically is a problem, by the way. Sure, it's a problem for tefillin, and you're imitating goyim. There is such a concept in Judaism that a person does not imitate the ways of the Gentiles, especially through dress code and haircuts as well. I thought that this is very, very important to share with the Kahal. One more concept. Behavior. We know that Yaakov Avinu, besides being emet, besides having the midah of honesty and truth, Yaakov Avinu had a beautiful personality. We don't see Yaakov Avinu throughout history that he was afflicted by deficiencies in his character trait. He was actually a sweetheart of a person, respectful, and Hashem was with him. Hashem throughout his life, from before being born. You know the beginning of Friday's parasha that we learned. What happened in the womb of Rivka? Vaytrotzetzu habanim bekirba. They were struggling. They were running inside of her womb. You know, like the Rebbe Mordechai asked, we understand that Esav wanted to get out of his mother's womb when she walked in front of a church. But why did Yaakov wanted to get out of his mother's womb? Wasn't he learning Gemara, Torah, the way the Gemara writes in Nida, that during the 9 months of pregnancy, a baby learns Torah? The answer is true. But when Esav is standing next to you, you run away. You run away. That's why we learned yesterday the Mishnah that says, Arhek mishachen ra. A person must stay away from negative influences, especially when it comes to neighbors. We all have friends, correct? We are humans. So if we are humans, we have friends. And there is nothing wrong to have good friends or to have friends. But we need to understand that sometimes, even when it comes to friends, we need to learn where to draw the line. In the sense of, okay, I'm a friend to a certain level, but if God forbid, a friend brings you down, you have to take a step back. And that's why in our daily prayers, in the Birkot HaShachar, what do we say? Mehaver Ra'a, from a bad friend. So I ask you a question. If it's a friend, why is he bad? And if he's a bad person, how come he's your friend? So the answer is, he's a nice person. But when it comes to spirituality, he's not where he's supposed to be. It's like sometimes it's a known situation. I hope it doesn't happen often. But sometimes a person wants to go out with the friends to a nice kosher restaurant. Baruch Hashem, they're opening up new restaurants in Aventura. Yeah. 2 new, one opened up 2 weeks ago, another one opened up last week. And no advertisement, but I'm just only creating an awareness. And check the KM website for address and location. And there is a new one coming up, 2 more opening up soon, not far from us. So thank God Aventura is becoming perhaps the hottest place for kosher restaurants. And this is thanks to the community that support the businesses and the constant arrival of families, etc. But it says that a person needs to learn where to draw the line, even with friends. Because if, God forbid, getting too close to a friend may lead the person to act or to speak or to do things which are halachically not proper or they are not kasher to do so. So this friendship, instead of helping you, God forbid, is helping the person to go down. Let's go to the next topic of today's Musar of today. The Musar of today speaks about the dangers of anger. It's not a new topic. It's not a new topic. Everybody seems to be very calm and very relaxed and very happy, and it's beautiful and keep up throughout your day, throughout your life. But I'm going to go very quickly from the Musar of today, that it says people don't really have a clue how detrimental anger is to the life of the person and to the success of the person. To the success of the person. It says at Tiferet HaKedusha, it says, Afilu poskim lo gedula min hashamayim. Even that Shamayim, listen to this statement, he was pre-approved to get a promotion in life. Whatever that means in your life. Maybe promotion if you work for a company, you climb the ladder, or in the world of business, suddenly your company was selected to provide to a certain country textile and phone lines and a warehouse distribution system. That's a nice blessing, right? Poskim lo min hashamayim. Shamayim already pre-approved it. But suddenly, 1 minute, no. Put a freeze on that promotion. Why? Good question, right? It says very simple. Das, anger. Anger, the Nachmanides, a famous letter, I'm sure everybody heard of it, the famous letter that he writes to his son. So what does he say right in the beginning to the letter? What does he say? Shema Beni, and then it says, Titnaheg tamid ledaber kol devarecha benachat. Train yourself to speak constantly, pleasantly, calm, respectful, לכל עת ובכל זמן, to every person, in every situation, in every moment. ובזה תנצל מן הכעס. When you impose to yourself now, no one else. From now on, I'm going to speak calmado, as they say in Spanish. I'm going to speak respectfully. I'm going to speak in an adame way. Says the Ramban, once you do that, you are doing now a side effect, a positive side effect. Not like in the medicines. When you're in the medicines, you ever read the medicine, it says warning, contraindications, and it gives you a whole list. If you ever read that, you will never take the medicine.
Not even an aspirin.
Nothing. Suicide, heart palpitation, depression, anxiety, panic attack, pulmonary, God forbid. You read it? You ever read it?
Yes.
God forbid.
I don't read anymore.
Okay, don't read. But obviously, we do understand that companies, they need to put certain legal disclaimers, to protect, which makes sense. We understand from the legal aspect of it, okay? But it says the Nachmanides that when you train yourself not to raise your voice, not to scream, to speak properly, respectful, it doesn't matter. He said beautiful word. He says a person that is able to have control of their emotions in a positive way is the winner. And when I mean winner, I don't mean there is a winner and there is a loser. No, what I'm trying to say is that your behavior, it gives you hope. And the Nachmanides says, and you know what happens when you achieve that? Some people, let's clarify, some people are very mild and respectful by their nature, their teva. Perhaps they never heard their parents scream, the way the Gemara writes, that when the parents' actions in the home, it shows a certain example to the children, and the way children act is most likely because they got something at home of that. That's what the tractate of Sukkah says at the end. Abaye says the behavior of the children most likely comes from the mother's behavior or the father's behavior. How many times people tell you, oh, you look like your father. Yeah. Oh, you have your mother's eyes. You have the well manner of your grandparents. I remember them, for example. So that's a great sign. Okay, but it says the Nachmanides, ובזה תנסל מן הכעס. This will help you spur yourself to subside the anger שהיא מידה רעה מכל המידות הרעות. Is the worst enemy of the person is anger. Rabbi Yehuda says in the Gemara, la tirtah bela teheta. It says, don't get angry so you will not sin. What sin are you going to make if you get angry? And many sins you can do. First, screaming at people. You're automatically transgressing several commandments from the Torah. One of them is ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. The first one on the list. You like to be screamed at?
No.
You like to be screamed at? Nobody likes.
Treat the other like you treat
Chazak u'baruch. So you're going to give the class tomorrow? I'm heading out of town tomorrow.
No.
So I'm saying this now so you don't forget.
Okay.
I'm going to be giving the class remotely via itorah.com.
How long have you been going?
For a few days. I'll be back Thursday afternoon, Be'ezat Hashem. Okay? But we're going to have Ramoshe give the live class in person here. I'll continue recording remotely via itorah.com. The only exception may be tomorrow, depends on my flight schedule. I may record it in advance, so then it's posted on the website, but I will share it later on anyways with via WhatsApp and email as well. Now, it goes even further. So it says that there was a brother of David HaMelech. One of the brothers of David HaMelech was called Eliav. That was his name. So if you look in the book of Shmuel, he was presented to Shmuel HaNavi. When Shmuel comes to Ishai and tells him, I'm here in a godly mission to select one of your sons to be the next king of Israel, since the kingdom of Shaul was removed. Ishai invited his sons, with the exception of King David, which was David. Then he was a shepherd. Who is the first one on the line? Eliab. If you look at the way the Pasuk describes Eliab, you say Mashiach. Knowledgeable, tall, handsome, elegant, knowledgeable of Torah, Irat Shamayim. That says unacceptable. Shmuel doesn't understand. God, this is Mashiach. God says, and it says, Al tabed el mar'ehu. God says to Shmuel, don't judge him by his external looks, be'el geboha komato, or his height, ki me'istihu, I despised him. Heavy.
Very.
I woke you up, and this is an hour behind.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Hashem is talking to Shmuel. How's it through a Neviah?
Of course.
Neviah, right?
Yes. No. To the message. So the question is, now, Kime Astihu, so it says, hold on a minute, what prompted God's change on Eliab? It says, I don't like him anymore.
Why?
So it means, Dehayarahim Adaidna. It means that there was a time that God loved him. And God wouldn't want him to become the next king of Israel. So it says, no, true. But it says, what was the enemy of Eliab? Anger. Lefi sheka'as. Anger. I ask you a question now. How many times does Shmuel in the book highlights the anger of Eliab? One time.
That was enough.
And for one time, you're going to execute the fellow. You're going to remove him the kingdom. And what happened that he became angry? Remember, there was a time in history that the wars used to create problems for both nations involved. What problem? Even though there was a nation that won the war and there was a nation that lost the war, there was one problem. Too many casualties of war, too many widows, too many orphans, too many wounded. So what did they do? They made an agreement, but that time, in the time of the Pelishtim, Goliath, Shaul, pre-David, obviously, and the agreement was that each nation will send a messenger to the battlefield. Whoever wins that battle, automatically they won the war. So it comes now, Pelishtim and the Jewish people. The Pelishtim offered Goliath, the famous Goliath. The Jewish people did not offer anyone. So far, David, where was King David? Or David, let's call him first, because he wasn't a king yet. Where was David? He was in the field, taking care of the sheep, taking care of the cattle, whatever they had in those days. But Ishai, his father, asks David, go see how your brothers are doing in the battlefield. Bring them food. Ishai was a baker. That's why he called Menachem. He was a baker. He was a great tzaddik. So David goes. So when Eliab sees David, he says the pasuk, Vayharaf Eliab. Eliab blew up, started to scream at David. Vayomer, lama ze yaradta? ועל מי נטשת מעט הצאן הענה במדבר? What are you doing here? Who invited you to come? And on top of that, who did you leave the handful of animals that we own? I ask you a question. It's such a big deal what he said. So what are you doing here? You're a child. So it says that the moment that he reacted, Hashem says, out. Why? The question is, why?
Because he got angry.
So what? Why, you never get angry? Not you, you're a Sadiq, I know.
No,
Okay?
no,
Okay.
not true.
Doesn't matter. Anger is anger. Now, I'd like to invite someone to the class virtually. His name was Pinhas. Remember Pinhas? The famous story of Pinhas? What happened with him? He acted, he saved the day, literally. He got rid of the enemy, and yet we don't see any official recognition, with the exception of God. Hashem rewards Pinhas. God says, I'll take care of you. Okay? Now I ask you a question. Why wasn't, if Pinhas became the national hero that he saved the Jewish people, why wasn't he promoted and given a leadership position among the Jewish people?
He did it out of anger.
So the answer is that although the actions of Pinhas were holy and necessary, but when you deal with people, anger cannot be one of your ID cards. Because if, God forbid, you're in a position of leadership and you get angry and you're executing someone, are you going to execute everybody that you're angry with? That's what happened with Pinhas. And that's what happened with Eliab. He says, when I'm going to put someone in the leadership of the Jewish people, he better be someone normal, that he will agree to disagree without activating his kingdom power to get rid of the opposition. But guess what? The story gets better, because when later on, every son of Shmuel every son of Ishai rather, was presented and was parading in front of Shmuel, God rejected every one of them. Everyone out, haughty, arrogant, not enough, whatever reason they had. Until finally comes King David. Shmuel says, listen, God told me to pick one of your sons, but God is telling me that none of them qualify. Now, is someone missing? Says, yeah, I have one, David. Bring him over. What was the reaction of Shmuel when he saw David?
Anger.
He said, Uli.
He got angry.
Why? Medium height, red hair, like I said. Look at the verse. I don't have the book of Shmuel in front of me. But look at the book of Shmuel Aleph, and you see the reaction of Shmuel. He says, this. And that's where God, I don't want to say rebukes Shmuel, but he says to Shmuel, you know what your problem is? You're judging a book by its cover. Ki ha'adam ro'eh la'inayim. You judging by the way the first one looks. tall, handsome, eloquent, knowledgeable, warrior. והשם רואה ללבב. But God sees above the external look, the essence of the person. And that's why the Musar of today continues and brings all kinds of reaction, that happens to the person's life. And it says that a person that is consumed by anger, he makes wrong decisions. Because you are in a rage, you are so upset that even your brain cells are not stabilized, are jumping all over the place. And that causes wisdom to leave, prophecy to leave, and now he says one more. And I'm not comfortable saying this, but I have to say it. It's part of today's menu of the day. I don't write the menu. The menu comes. Okay? So it says, Kol HaKo'ez, a person that gets angry easily. Yani anything happens. Short fuse. Anything happens. You make a comment, something negative. Cold weather, uli. Hot weather, uli. Yani every day, an excuse of why not to be happy. So you know what the Gemara in the tractate of Nedarim says? Kol HaKo'ez beyadua she'avonotav merubim mizechuyotav. It says, most likely, the Talmud says, this person does more sins than mitzvot. Why? Pasuk from King Solomon that says, Ish af yegare madon uba'al hema, a hot-tempered person, Rav Pasha, most likely is an expert in sinning. Why? God forbid. It's a heavy statement.
That's heavy.
From King Solomon. And King Solomon knew mankind, the wisest of all men. But why the Gemara says such a powerful statement? So I think that if I can summarize all the detrimental statements, I only gave you some. There are 6 more, but they're too hot for Sunday morning. Too hot for Sunday morning.
Even for Florida?
Well, even for Florida, yeah. Although today we can use some heat. Okay, chilly out there. But you know what? I have to see Eliyahu and Navi in a few minutes. The Milah that I went the other day, just to give you an update, it wasn't able to be done.
Why?
Everything was set up. Sa'udah, mohel, family, we check the mohel, the baby checks the mohel says, I'm not comfortable. He says, I wait till you come. I said, Rabbi, if you're not comfortable, I'm not comfortable. He said, but I want you to see it. I went, I saw it, and the baby was yellow, like developed overnight. The day before it was good. So Wednesday, the same. Then when you have Thursday, you cannot do the Milah because it's a delay Milah if the third day is on Shabbat. So God willing, the Milah will be in a few minutes. So I'm going to finish now and run to see Eliyahu and Navi. I'll send him your regards. Hopefully he'll stay. Because every time I see him, he says, I'll come later. I'm still waiting for him. I want to talk to him. Wait, I'm not finished.
Okay.
No, I just closed the book.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. I'm tricking the Yetzer Hara. Now, if we need to talk about what is the antidote of anger. Nahat, okay. But what prompts anger?
Positive thing.
1 second. Positive thinking, nahat, all that is beautiful. But what prompts anger? I like to say a few answers.
There are a lot of reasons.
Somebody said arrogance, beautiful. The person becomes arrogant. The person feels my way or the highway, basically, and something that doesn't go my way, I need to explode. So I like to add one more vitamin. And I think that Emunah in a Kadosh Baruch Hu a bit and a bit more can help the person to learn how to become calmer. I'm not saying that after listening to a 45-minute class, automatically we're going to be David Melech, or we're going to be Superman, or we're going to be super nice and super pleasant. I wish that one class of Torah can achieve that, which is possible because Torah is like oxygen to the body, it's like water to the body, it's air to the neshama, etc. But I think that if the person makes the effort to enhance and to activate a bit of Emunah in Hashem, because at the end of the day, what are some of the basic principles of faith in Hashem? Besides believing that Hashem exists, but nothing happened without God's intervention. So if God didn't want that to happen, or if God caused something to happen, why you get angry? Again, I'm not saying that automatically for one sentence we're going to become tzaddikim instantly. I wish that can happen. But we don't know which drop of water will melt the heart, and will the person say, you know what? If I start having more emunah in Hashem, and I understand that everything is divine providence, even when I don't understand, even when at times in my eyes is adverse what I see, but I know that the same one who gave me the wife, the same one who gives me health, the same one who gives me parnasa, the same one that gives me children, the same one that gives me whatever a person has in the life, is the same sender of a hiccup in life. So why you get angry? I know that it's easier said than done. It's easier said than done. But I think that if we drill this thought in my mind, you'll see great changes in our life. And not only that, because the anger, okay, and well, this will finish, it has a recipient. Sometimes people get angry by themselves, with themselves, inside of their car. Chazaku Baruch. But how many times your spouse, and I say the word spouse, could be the wife, could be the husband, or the children, or your employee, or someone close to you. They are the ones that absorb your attitude. What do you think? That doesn't hurt them? It doesn't affect them? So it's not only you're hurting yourself, now you're hurting other people. And if it's to your family, to your wife and kids, or to your husband and children, now you're more victims of the anger. This is the message of today. My good friends, Yehi Ratzon that the words of Torah elevate the neshama of Mrs. Lawrence Chira, Shoshana Bat Leah, as well as Miriam Bat Bulisa, Hillary Aliyah Shalom, and sends refuah shelema to Leah Bat Sara, and Ishaq ben Miriam among the Holim of all of Am Israel. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen Be'amen. Rabbi Hanani Menachem אומר רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל לפיכך. הרבה להם תורה מצוות, שנאמר, אדוני חפש למען צדקו